Hi everyone, it's Chris and welcome back to another video. Thank you for popping by today. Now, can you remember the first records you ever owned? Now, I'm talking about albums here rather than 45s because my memory around 45s is very, very hazy. I remember the first one I ever got, which was Tiger Feet by Mud. My nan bought it for my 11th birthday back in 1974. But can you remember the first albums you bought? Now, because there were less of them than there were of 45s, I bought a lot of 45s, for example, in 1977. It's a little bit easier to remember. I don't know if the order is exactly right, but these are definitely the first 10 or so albums that I acquired back in my kind of formative years of record collecting. So I started secondary school at the age of 12 in 1975. And it was an all-boys school, and at the school lots of the older lads had these great big Adidas holdalls, and on there they would draw band logos, Yes and Genesis and Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin and Deep Purple. And I had a friend in my tutor group, someone who hadn't gone to primary school with me, that I kind of became friends with when I went to secondary school, and he lived nearby, and I used to go around his house. He had two older brothers, and they had seemingly quite a vast collection, and my musical knowledge and experience really stems from listening to albums that they had in their collection. And one of the bands that they played a lot of at the time was what turned out to be my favourite band, and that's Deep Purple. So the first three albums I bought were by the same band. The first album I ever acquired was a Christmas present in 1975, at the end of the first term of being at secondary school, and it was this one, 24 Karat Purple, and this is still that copy. My mum and dad bought it for Christmas for me. Classic compilation, Mark II Deep Purple, the Gildan Glover version of the band. This has got Woman from Tokyo, Fireball, Strange Kind of Woman, Never Before, Black Knight, Speaking, Smoke on the Water and Child in Time. A fantastic album. I love it, and I still sometimes do play it because I just think it's a great collection of songs. And the next two albums that I acquired are also of the same band. So the first album I ever bought with my own money was this one, Come Taste the Band. This was an album that the two older brothers and my friend used to play a lot. It hadn't long been out, and it's a strange album really because it's it's Deep Purple, yes, but it's the Deep Purple version that has Tommy Bolin, not Richie Blackmore. So a strange kind of album to have. But Come Taste the Band came out in 75. I bought it in 76. And I still love this album. Coming Home, Lady Luck, You Keep On Moving. I think there's some classic stuff on there. And I didn't acquire another album until the following Christmas of December 76, which was this one, Made in Japan. Classic album, absolutely superb album, brilliantly engineered, brilliantly produced, fantastic sound given it was recorded in 72, and for me it's the greatest live album of all time. And that came into my collection for the first time in 1976 in December. And then we're into 77, and I bought a lot of 45s, and I did start to buy a few albums in 77. And one of the first albums I bought was a band who, they were one of the first singles or punk singles I ever bought, and that single was Swallow My Pride, and I followed that single up quite quickly with the album Leave Home by Ramones. I think this is absolutely brilliant. Rocket to Russia I think is equally as good, actually. I think in fact it's marginally better. I think it's slightly stronger set of songs, but this was the first one, so quite nostalgic. And Rocket to Russia, I don't think I bought that until late in the following year, actually. And that is a bit hazy, so I haven't included Rocket to Russia, but this one I definitely bought in the summer of 1977. Glad to See You Go, Give Me Shock Treatment, I Remember You, Oh, I Love Her So, Susie is a Headbanger, Pinhead, Swallow My Pride. Absolutely brilliant album. I love it, and I still enjoy that one today. And that was in the summer of 77. I also followed that up in the summer of 77 with another punk album. This is a band that I'm not a massive fan of, if I'm really honest. I like this record, and that's probably about it. And it's the debut album from The Clash. I bought this in 1977, although this isn't the copy. So in 1977, 78, I started to go to a few parties, and I used to take this because I thought I was really hard and stuff, and so it went through the wars a little bit, and I ended up losing the cover and only having the record. And so when I went to uni in 1988, I replaced it. And this is, I think I bought this in about 1982, 83. So this is a later repress. And this came to parties with me, as you can probably tell by the state of it. And but I love this album. Janie Jones, Remote Control, I'm So Bored of the USA, White Riot, which I played all summer long in 77. What's My Name, London Burning. It's fantastic. The first side is absolutely brilliant. So yeah, that's not the original that I had in '77. It's a follow-up in '82, but I love that album. Something completely different now. One of the bands that lots of the older boys were into was the next band, because I was just intrigued by them. They had a fantastic logo. It was drawn by a guy called Roger Dean. A bit of a proggy band. They had a single that got into the charts, which I quite liked, and so I ended up buying the album. And the album is Going for the One by Yes. Now, how different is that to the first Clash album? But I really like this album. Going for the One, the title track is good. Wonder Stories, Awaken, Parallel. I think this is a decent album, and I might do a favourite 5 on Yes actually at some point. But that was my next album, and I also at Christmas in '77 got another Christmas present, and it's this one. And this is Black Sabbath Greatest Hits with The Triumph of the Dead. I think is that Bruegel, I think, on the cover. Paranoid, NIB, Changes, which I've never liked. Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, Iron Man, Black Sabbath, War Pigs, Laguna Sunrise, strange pick. Tomorrow's Dream and Sweet Leaf. Fantastic record. When you hold it up to the light, it's kind of like a translucent purple colour. And I got that in 1977 at Christmas. Now, just after Christmas, I bought 4 singles by this band in '77, and in a way I didn't feel I needed the album, but I eventually did get the album, and I got this in 1970. I was in the 4th year at school when I bought this. This is an album that came out in '77, but I actually bought it in '78, and I remember I had to sneak it home. It was an album that was banned in a lot of places, and in some places it was in a bag. You couldn't buy it not in the bag, or they couldn't display it not in the bag. And I remember getting it home and sneaking it past my mum and putting it into my collection. But this is for me one of the greatest debut albums of all time, one of the greatest albums of all time, certainly the greatest one and done albums of all time, and of course it's Nevermind the Bollocks, the Sex Pistols. This is a sensational album. Pretty Vacant, one of my favourite songs of all time. God Save the Queen, Anarchy, Holidays in the Sun, the 4 singles, but also Bodies, which I think is just amazing. What an album. Everyone knows that, but I got that in 1978. In '78 I went to see the next band. I went with a then girlfriend, and we went to see this band. They were supported by Japan, which was a strange mix because the headlining act were Blue Oyster Cult, and they were absolutely brilliant. They had a decent light show, and I remember at one point they were all playing guitar, and I think they did Born to Be Wild. And I went out quite soon after, and I bought On Your Feet or On Your Knees, which is one of the greatest live albums for me of all time. It's flawed because it's got a couple of covers on it that, if were replaced with things like Stairway to the Stars and Astronomy, would have been an absolutely perfect album. But I played this to death in 1978, absolutely to death. And when I play this album, I do actually play it quite regularly. I know it note for note. I played it so much, and that is very much the case, isn't it, with your albums back in the day, because you didn't have very many, so you played the same ones again and again. And so I know this inside out. But On Your Feet or On Your Knees by Blue Oyster Cult, oh God, what an album. And that was bought as a result of seeing Blue Oyster Cult in Bournemouth Winter Gardens in '78. Also in '78, I can't remember if this gig was before or after Blue Oyster Cult, I can't remember. But I saw them at a place called the Village Bowl in Bournemouth, and I don't know if anyone from the area kind of watches this channel, but the Village Bowl was a relatively small venue, and this band were unbelievably loud, and very different, very strange, in that they had a guitarist who wore a schoolboy outfit. And I saw this band on their Power Age tour, and of course it is AC/DC. Now, I didn't go out as a result of seeing them play, and by Power Age I went out and I bought Let There Be Rock. And I bought this from a market which was next door to a place called Poole Art Centre, which I think is called the Lighthouse now, down in Poole in Dorset. And I bought it from there. And they didn't have, it was I don't know if it was second-hand records or not, I can't remember now, but they didn't have Power Age, so I bought this one instead. And actually, one of the only songs I remember from the night was the title track of this album, Let There Be Rock, and they played that towards the end of the set. And I do remember that a kind of a lasting memory, and that's why I think I probably bought this one rather than try to seek out Power Age. But I think this is, along with Power Age, their best album. I can't. It flip-flops between those two, but Go Down, Dog Eat Dog, Let There Be Rock, Bad Boy Boogie, what a first side, absolutely immense. And then you get Overdose, Crabsty in Blue, Hell Ain't a Bad Place to Be, and Whole Lot of Rosie. Whole Lot of Rosie, I think it's a definitive version. It's much better than live. It's longer, the guitar solo is better, but this is a brilliant album, and it just sounds like whoever recorded this has just gone into the studio, said, right, band, set up, and then has just pressed, record. It's that kind of raw, and I absolutely love this album. And I bought that in 1977 at the market down in Poole. In 1977, I also bought 78. Sorry, that was 78. In 1978, I also bought this compilation. I was still into this kind of music. I think rock music was just taking over from it. But I remember seeing this in a record shop in my hometown of Poole. And I thought I had to get this, and it's the compilation, New Wave compilation. It's a Sire compilation, and it's got marketed by Vertigo and Phonogram, but it's an absolutely brilliant compilation. So it's got Judy as a Punk by the Ramones, one of my favourite Ramones songs. Sonic Reducer by Dead Boys, one of the best songs from '77. Patti Smith's on here. New York Dolls, Personality Crisis is on here. Richard Hell and the Voidoids is on here. Boomtown Rats, which I remember buying that 45. Talking Heads. New Rose by the Damned is on here, which is just brilliant. Susie is a Headbanger. Oh, it's absolutely brilliant compilation, and that was bought in, I think, the summer of 1978. So there we go. And the last album that I can remember, and after this it is very blurry. So I was in the 4th year at school, 1978, and I remember even though I lived down on the south coast, you could just pick up Radio Bristol, I think it was, and there was a rock show. I think it was on either Saturday or Sunday afternoon or evening, I can't remember now. But I remember hearing a track from this album and thought, oh my God, I need this album. And I remember talking to a few people at school the following day to also listen to it. And I went out and bought this album almost straight away, and I love this album, and I still love it. And it's Frank Marino and Mahogany Rush live. This is an absolute guitar fest of an album. The song I heard was called Talking About a Feeling, but it also has Who Do You Love, Electric Reflections of War, and the World Anthem kind of all moulded into one. The guitar work on it is out of this world. There's a version of Purple Haze of Johnny Be Good on here, but some other, I'm a King Bee. So some covers, some originals, and the guitar work is just brilliant. One of the most underrated guitarists of all time is Frank Marino. And after that, folks, it is a bit of a blur, because I started to get albums quite thick and fast, probably towards the back end of 78 into 79, and certainly 1980 I acquired loads, and so it's a bit blurred, so I can only do those 10 or 11. So anyway, what were the first albums that you bought? Can you remember the first couple that you added into your collection? Let me know in the comments below, and I'm sure I'll be back sometime soon with another video. Cheers.